So in this video, let's talk about 3 things I wish I knew when I started programming. So number 1, tutorial purgatory. So many people have experienced this, me included. I started programming say about 4 or 5 years ago at university. I would have done so much more, so much faster, so much more efficiently if I had learned this lesson. So what is tutorial purgatory? It is essentially doing YouTube tutorials, doing online courses, and feeling good about it. I mean, like, shouldn't you feel good about it when you're doing online courses, when you're doing YouTube tutorials about programming? Isn't that productive use of your time? No, it's not, especially as a beginner. This is why. Because as a beginner, what you want to do is be able to build things as quickly as possible. Because if you just spend all your time doing online courses, what happens is that you learn all programming concepts and theory, but when it comes to actually doing things, you're not able to do it. For you to be able to do things, you will have to go back to the course again and revise the concepts, and it just takes a lot longer. A general rule of thumb that I'm stealing from the Simple Programmer channel is to learn to do X because you want to do Y. Always know why you're learning something. For example, you want to build an app. Instead of doing an online course on how to make iOS apps, think about a project that you want to build. Think about, say, a to-do list app. And then divide that up into pieces and learn things necessary for that. For example, you may think, okay, I need to learn how to build user interfaces. Okay, do tutorials on that. Okay, I need to learn how to persist data for each to-do items. Okay, do tutorials on that, and so on and so forth. I think that's a much more faster and efficient way to learn as a beginner when you're starting on. Of course, you would need to do some initial purgatory stuff, some scoping, some tutorials, some courses, just to get things up and running. By up and running, I mean just enough to get you started building, say, a simple Hello World application, just so you're familiar with the IDE and stuff. But once you're there, then do not focus on learning the fundamentals and the theories and everything. Just start building things, learning the theory to support the features that you want to build. That, to me, is a much more efficient and faster and effective way of learning, especially when you're starting on. So that's tip number 1, learning to do X because you want to do Y. Worth repeating. And again, it's not my quote, it's stolen from this Simple Programmer. Great channel, check it out. Tip number 2. So when I started out programming, I would think more is better. I thought the more programming languages you learn, the more you're able to build for different platforms, but this was wrong and very ineffective. What I've realized over time is that most programming languages are similar. Be it MATLAB, Python, C, Sharp, they're all similar. They all have the timeless core principles, functions, loops, object-oriented programming, etc. But they all differ in their syntaxes. So what I've noticed is it would have been way more efficient if I just focused on a single programming language, a single framework, single platform. For example, learning Swift programming language for building iOS app, and just go deep on that. And by going deep, learning all the timeless fundamentals of programming through that language. For example, object-oriented design, design principles, clean coding, functions, loops, and all the basic stuff. Learn all that just through a single programming language. And once you've mastered that, then branch out to a different programming language, a different framework, a different technology. That would be a much more faster transition than if you were just out there in the surface learning different programming languages but not going deep with it anywhere. Because if you do the former, you'll just be able to build very simple applications using different languages for different platforms. If you do the latter, which I recommend, you'll be able to build really cool applications using a single language, and then you'll be able to learn other languages much quicker. So deep, branch out, deep, branch out, deep, branch out is a much more effective strategy in my opinion. So that's the other lesson that I've learned the hard way, is to just focus on a single programming language and going deep with it when you're starting on. So the final and third tip is that fundamentals do matter. This might seem contradictory to what I said in my first tip, which was essentially to avoid fundamentals and just get started building stuff. But that is for the beginner stages. When you're starting out, you just want to build stuff and just learn enough to add whatever features you want. But once you pass that beginner stage, and if you're just stuck in that stage all your life, you won't be able to build anything complex and deep and valuable. So to get there, fundamentals do matter, because fundamentals lets you do things more quicker and efficiently and more creatively. And what do I mean by fundamentals? By fundamentals, I mean things like object-oriented programming, design principles, writing clean code, reusable code, good quality code, code structure, and all that stuff. These are timeless principles that does not change with programming languages, but will serve you well all your life. So fundamentals do matter, once you're past that beginning stages. So in the initial stages, focusing on building stuff and just hacking things together. And then once you're comfortable building apps or products or websites, then spend time on the fundamentals, because it will take things to a higher level. So do subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you next week.